stop trying to be an outlier. You're just fucking us off. So, cool, caffeine's kicking in. So, I actually never wanted fame, status, or social media clout. I actually got it through seeking dopamine every day. So every social media post was like a video game for me, or like trying to battle Chris to make sure I send more traffic to the website than him.
What are the common things that you're seeing that people are doing wrong? What can they shift that then really starts to move the needle in terms of the marketing funnel piece?
I would love to get a mirror and put it in front of people and say, hey, this is where you do 80% of your scrolling. It's in bed at night. You're with your missus. Your toes are touching under the bed. Me and my missus do it. We call it doom scrolling. You are not giving anyone a fucking chance. And until someone can fucking entertain that, and then you're like, then something's good enough to show your partner. You do not give people more than 2.5 seconds. If you can't get the first 5 seconds right, you're fucked.
What's changed since you become a dad?
I was adopted. I've never seen a blood relative before. So my son is my first blood relative.
Wow.
And he looks just like, when he's crying or whatever, I'm like, it's cool, he's mine. But then I'm like, my parents would have been like that with a baby that wasn't theirs. I'm like, fuck, they did this for me. When business wasn't going good, it wasn't just that it wouldn't go good, it was that if it doesn't get better, I'm going home. If I just was probably 10% more scared, I would probably still be in the gym in the UK. The hustle that kid had in 2017.
What are you most proud of? Welcome to Chew the Fat. In this series, I sit down with high performance guests and we talk about life, business, and what it takes to be at the top. This is part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity by writing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. But I'm gonna need your help. If you can share the content and leave a review, it's gonna make a massive impact. And the bigger the audience, the greater the reach, and the sooner we can get to that $1 million goal. Enjoy the episode.
So you said to me you like eggs on toast?
Yes.
And part of the Chew the Fat tradition is I cook a dish, part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity by writing a cookbook. Get stuck in, my friend. What's the nutrition like for you Monday to Friday?
Pretty average. Now, like, so you know I said to you, I'm a bit of a basic bitch.
Yep. I like that.
In the morning, I'm like, oats, because I want energy. I'm also like mindful that oats are like pretty healthy, good for my LDL cholesterol that was a bit high at the beginning of the year. And then I'm like, okay, I also need protein. So I have like 2 massive scoops of protein.
Perfect.
I'm mixing it, it's all thick. My missus is like, you're gonna heat that up? I'm like, what's the point? Then I put frozen fruit in it because if I buy fresh fruit, I forget about it. I've got really bad ADHD. So I go through a period of loving fruit and then never touching it and it goes off and goes rotten. And then she's like, you're just gonna eat the frozen fruit. So I'm there complaining that my teeth are going numb. But I'm eating just for function at this point.
Yeah. Mate, let's get stuck in. Let's get stuck into the interview. I hope you enjoyed.
James Smith, welcome to Chew the Fat.
Thank you very much.
Mate, I would normally start with something like, what's the context, what's the story? But I'm looking at these bad boys. I just want to tuck into them.
Just start with the citrus.
Start with the citrus. Talk to me about this.
So my thing at the moment is honest marketing.
Yes.
I would say this is the 3rd best flavor out of 3.
That's good. Out of 3, okay, good.
However, I run the stock.
Oh, that is good.
So like, it's still great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, that's good.
But for anyone out there, and the most annoying thing is we still can't get them in Australia because of the TGA.
So we're doing something illegal right now.
Well, the personal use. The Therapeutic Goods Association have our pants down. So like, even without turning it into a sales pitch, caffeine's not original in a drink. Theanine, some of our competitors here, even Shine, have got theanine. Really goes really well with caffeine.
Yeah.
But we have 400 milligrams and you're not allowed to put more than 250 in. Yes. But when we look at like effective doses and whatever, a lot of these drinks in the market here are just under, they put in the amount to get it past the TGA. There's not really like effective dosages. Then cognizin, regular rosea, and panax ginseng. You could put them in supplements to your heart's desire. Yeah. Even like some pre-workouts, you could put them in massive amounts, but the second you put it in a drink, TGA is like, nah, mate. Nah, mate, it's not happening. So, and then people go, can't you just ship it in? But even you note with the cans, they're slightly different sizes. That's an American can. That's a British can.
Yeah, right.
If we were to produce an Australian can, we've got to get the 10 cents logo on it. We've got to make sure that all the ingredients. So we would have to manufacture everything here. Yes. And at the moment, it's annoying because people in Oz are like, they'll go to buy a case, it'd be like $150.
Oh, because they're importing it in. Yeah, right.
So like,
dedicated.
It's a pretty big fuck up. But as far as the business, this really excites me, but it was weird for me because everything I've ever launched as a business owner, you launch, you make money. Yep. You might launch, wait a few months, make money.
Yeah.
With this, right? And people online have said, oh, James, you've sold out. And I'm like, well, kind of, because I've always wanted a product. I've always sold services. And like a lot of, the elephant in the room is, right, probably my most successful business today is a coaching app. And I'm a PT that for the most of my years doesn't have a coach. So I'm a hypocrite, right? It's like having a yoga app when you don't do yoga. So I felt like a fraud my whole life. But what I have had is caffeine addiction. So like getting into a market where like I could line up all the competitors. I could give you an analysis. I could do a SWOT analysis on every single like energy drink in the market. So this was exciting. But where someone was ripping me for selling out, I was like, bro, so far, these have cost me $1,000 a can to drink. So like for my investment divided by the amount of cans that I've had over the duration of it, I was like, you're crying about paying, you know, $3 for it. I was like, they cost me $1,000 a can so far, brother. I've not had any money back. I'm in the hole. If this collapses, my investment property I was going to buy is gone. So like, it's interesting to put so much risk into something. I know obviously with your own story, 10 years building a business.
Yeah.
So like, although you might have seen profits a bit earlier, it's difficult when someone goes, oh yeah, this could be massive if you're willing to be miserable for a decade.
Yes. So for all the punters out there that are listening, they're like, what is going on? Because all they heard is a can crack. We're looking at Neutonic. Yes, it isn't a sales pitch, but I am desperately curious, right? Like you've got this big social media presence, you've been building things around fitness, but I love talking business. And I'm curious about, we talked about the why behind this, but like, what was the process to go, to decide to work with Chris Williamson, to, decide what's in the drink, to decide, how big was scale? Like, bring me through the thought process to what is sitting in front of us today.
I'll tell you what wasn't great was the fact as we're creating this, Logan Paul and KSI did Prime. So they completely fucked that creator drink to market. We just kind of watched the world burn as we're like processing all of our things. So truth be told, there's a company in the UK called Genflow, who for probably 4 or 5 years approached us with ideas that I was just like, nah. So like, oh, James, you should bring out some protein. I was like, nah, creatine, nah. Like, not interested, mate. I don't want to flog supplements because I don't love supplements.
Yes.
Taking a protein shake for me is more of a chore than anything. I don't want to sell chores to people. So eventually Sean, the owner of Genflow, was like, I have an idea. And my manager was like, I think we should go listen. So we went in, and what they positioned wasn't Neutonic, but they kind of said, here's the quadrant of energy drinks, and we don't want to compete in here. But if we look into a productivity market, I remember Sean said one thing that was, productivity could be the next fitness. And that never left. I was like, oh, do you know what? If I don't train today, I'll be fine. But if I'm not productive today, I'll be an asshole by the evening. Like, I'll be getting out of bed at 9 p.m. to get my laptop out. I'll wait for my missus to fall asleep so I can go do some work. And then when it came to like personal values, what I find important, I was like, oh, actually, I'm a bit of a productivity fiend. I actually haven't got a caffeine addiction. I've got a productivity addiction. I wouldn't have 9 coffees by the pool on holiday, right? If I was an addict, I would. But when I've got my laptop, I'm like, keep bringing me coffees till I pass out, So I realized as, a high agency business owner, I have a productivity problem. So then when I saw that quadrant, I was like, oh, there's a market here. Now, like many things, the market of taking supplements and pills. Now, full disclosure, we are about to move into like a market of diversifying the offerings for Neutonic. But for me, a drink has always been my preferred means of getting in caffeine or any type of enhancement. Another thing as well was, right, say we do a speaking gig, big venue, lots of people come in. I'm not even worried about the crowd or anything. I'm worried about what drink I have in my green room, right? And it's got to events before where we've only had like full sugar Red Bulls. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not a diva. I'm a bit of a diva, but I'm not much of a diva when I travel. But I'm like, to my manager, is there any way we can get some like sugar-free Red Bulls? Because I'm going to nail like 5 of these, right? Before I go out. And I just don't want to have the sugar ones. It makes me feel like a crackhead. And then at another event, I got like a can of Ghost that had alpha GPC in, which is like a nootropic that I like. It was actually the nootropic I wanted for this, but you can't sell it in Europe. And then someone drank it and it ruined 2 hours before the event. I'm like, who did that? Like someone's going to die. So for my biggest ever event at the Hammersmith Apollo, I bought 2 of my favorite nootropic energy drinks at the time. I hid them behind 2 bottles of champagne so no one could find them. So like, whilst most people are thinking about the event, the speaking gig, whatever, I'm just worried about the drinks that I've hidden. I'm worried about so for me, I've always said like, you need to prime yourself for something. If I've forget my eye mask, I can't sleep. If I don't have music, I might as well not train. If I can't have like 300-400 milligrams of caffeine, I'm not going to get any book writing done today. So like for me, definitely having a very chaotic like ADHD lifestyle, I almost have to have my primers around with me.
Yeah.
So when this idea came to the table, we started working on it, flushing it out. Then Chris also uses my manager for some event stuff. And he had an expression of wanting to move into like the productivity and nootropic space. And he was like, oh, hold on, you boys are going to work together.
Had you known each other?
We'd known each other before.
Okay.
Chris had actually come to a lot of my events in the UK before he was big time.
Yep.
So Chris Williamson, just so you know, I was friends with you before you were big time. And yeah, so we knew each other, and we also are a pretty good mix of yin and yang. I'm chaos, he's organization. I'm ADHD, he's borderline autism. So like we have those like different strengths and kind of weaknesses where, like I said to you offline before, if you say to me, James, I need 6 pieces of social media content by tomorrow morning, I'll get it done that evening. I will call my videographer and be like, I don't care what you're doing, I need you now. I could then maybe do 6 videos off the cuff with no planning, and they'll do really well. But then you say, hey, can you check the Slack? I'll reply and they'll go, James, that message was from a month ago. You know, so like where...
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, like, but then I think in time, we will get to appreciate that, where we both have our strengths and weaknesses with things. He will analytically check the copy of every word, punctuation, this needs to be capital. The reason they taste so good is because of Chris. So quick side tangent. The reason we have US Orange here is because when we produced those in the first run, somehow the taste was wrong. And I think it might have something to do with the water that was in America or the factory or whatever. Now, when they sent it to me, I went, yeah, this is fine. And Chris lost it. He's like, absolutely not. He's like, this is off by 20%. We cannot do anything with this. And I was like, let's just send them to a jiu-jitsu team. Let's send them to a gym somewhere. But then 600 kilograms of it arrived in my gym yesterday, and I tasted it today after drinking these for 6 months. And I was like, oh yeah, we shouldn't have sold those. Like, so, yeah, he's very meticulous with the taste, with the detail. I'm very much more the creative side of things. And if I'm honest, like my main things I enjoy, another thing I've discovered in my life is I'm a dopamine junkie as well. So my productivity actually stems from chasing dopamine, which I only had my ADHD diagnosis maybe a year and a half ago. Also came out that I've got anxiety, which isn't cool. You know, could be the 600 milligrams of caffeine a day.
I was going to say.
So like, understanding the things that I like. I actually never wanted fame, status, or social media clout. I actually got it through seeking dopamine every day. So every social media post was like a video game for me. How can I produce an asset or a piece of content that could attribute a high score? And then I got a taste of status and I was like, oh, it's quite nice. So like a lot of the things where some people intentionally want a certain direction, I was doing different things. And when I started on social media, originally it was to not have to prospect on a gym floor. But then when things went viral, I was like, oh my God, this feels good. You know, like, whoa,
checking those stats. Woo!
And then you see the socials grow, the email list grow, then you put out a marketing email and you see your bottom line, then your trials and all of this. And I played video games my whole life. Love Call of Duty, played Age of Empires 2. Like, you know,
good. That's a good game.
any game, like, and I'd obsess over it. So like when I got into the world of business, it wasn't like a drive of capitalism. It was, you know, I've got a pretty weird relationship with money. Like I love it, but also don't care about it. But getting high scores, I'm like, that's the one. Or like trying to battle Chris to make sure I send more traffic to the website than him. I'm like, yeah, you might have gone on Rogan twice, brother. But look at that.
That's so good. Are we allowed to talk numbers?
Yeah. So
just from like an investment standpoint, because I'm curious, because I think about the audience listening, they might not have the social media list, but they're looking to start a product. I think it's really important for people to understand like the time it takes from that idea to execution, the investment and the time horizon you're thinking about before, you know, this will be able to actually tip over and become a profitable entity.
So I can tell you everything I know. And this is the thing that I actually haven't really spoken about this much before, but
good.
So I messaged my manager the other day. We have a shared bank account and I haven't looked at our bank account in 2 years. I lost my logins for it. So like he kind of gives me passive aggressive nudges when we need to turn it up a bit. He tells us when we're good and we probably need to spend some money and like, you know, move it around, invest it, whatever.
Yeah.
And so he got me a card, which I never used. And he gave me my logins to the account, which I lost very quickly. So my manager deals with everything for me. He's like my big brother. And So he's like, oh, just let you know, we're going to be investing this into this. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. He will book me to do talks and events, then just tell me how much I'm getting paid. He won't even ask me. I actually give him carte blanche to do whatever he wants. He's got my best interests at heart. He could be Dom Kinging me and taking all my money behind my back. But you know what? Like when we first started working together, I said to him, do we need to have a contract? And he's like, we can if you want. But he goes, just to let you know, if we're not getting along with each other, a contract's not really going to be too much. And I was like, okay. He's like, but I can do it. And then he took me and two of my best friends on a private jet to Ibiza for one night as a surprise. And I was like, oh, you're my guy. So when we got there, I was like, oh, we're just going to be like in and out for the night. We had like a suite at Ushuaia. Then we went to Eric Prydz that evening. It was like the wildest 24 hours of my life. And I came back and I was like, oh, so we're working together forever.
Genius.
And like,
the contract of the future.
I got like an offer from Live Nation before, and I just sent him a message back saying lol and CC'd him in. Like, you know, so like we're at that point now where like I went to his wedding. He cried when I got my first #1 best-selling book. Like, so we're like tight. Yeah. So with a lot of the numbers, I kind of just say to him like, oh, is this good? Is this a good deal? And he does most of that for me. So I'm actually like, I got asked a question. I was doing an interview for something on LinkedIn the other day. They're like, what's your leadership style? And I was like, terrible. I was like, I'm awful with staff. I have no idea about my main analytics. I can go months without looking at Stripe. I'm actually just a workhorse that somehow is at the top of the pyramid. I need to be managed. Like, even to the point that my manager would be like, just to let you know, you have a podcast in an hour. And then I have to play it cool and pretend I knew. I'm like, yeah, I knew. He's like, where are you? I was like, not there. And then I'm like, oh, is there any way we can move this podcast? He's like, well, they have flown from Ireland. I'm like, fuck. So chaotic, disorganized, but then I can be quite good with creatives. And when I obsess over certain things, like, for instance, one thing I've been playing around with a lot recently is chatbot automations.
Yes.
So like I was very naive to them, then I started using them. And I said to one of my business partners, I was like, oh, I'm thinking of hiring someone to teach me how this works. And he goes, shut up. He goes, just spend a day learning it and you'll be fine. He's like, don't hire someone. He goes, don't do that. He goes, you annoy me when you do that. He goes, just spend a day and you'll know more than most people within a day. And then I went full into it. Don't talk to me. I'm learning chatbots for the day. I'm watching instructionals. And
what did you use for it?
ManyChat.
Okay, and is that leveraging like ChatGPT or
no? So although it has an AI feature, in essence, like you see some people doing like prompts where it's like, DM me the word coach, and there is that, and that was great in the onset because I think that people are a bit exhausted from going to the link in bio.
Yes.
They feel like I'm not working for you, so this one doesn't taste as good.
Taste as good.
And
so it's the fourth best out of 3.
This got recalled.
Okay.
But the good flavor ones are in my gym.
Okay.
It's just got a weird aftertaste to it.
Yeah.
However, that still tastes better than your Shine, right? No offense to the Shine CEO. What were you thinking? Your first run, that flipping blue Riz lemonade one, it was like cat piss. And
I'm gonna put an asterisk here. I know the co-founder, Steve Chapman. He's a great guy.
But hold on, the new flavors, you did your due diligence because I tried one the other day and I went to Ripia. But it was good.
Okay, good. Got that, Steve.
But those first flavors, I don't know if it was like the matcha, but it had a real bitterness to it.
Yeah, okay.
And I literally was like, who signed this up? And like, new flavors good. Those first ones, he'll probably agree. He'll probably agree. A bit like me when we had this, we had to make the choice of whether or not
I can taste it. There's something funky there. Chris, you're onto it.
I actually just operate. If we look at the funnel as being like socials awareness, maybe some type of data collection, email marketing, landing pages, sales, I operate in that top part.
So we're talking about chatbots.
Yeah.
So talk to me.
So for anything that can send people in the direction of a URL, because even my fitness business, my objective is, say, I'm more of like maybe a CMO than I am a CEO.
Yes.
So then I get left with all the email marketing campaigns. Chatbots worked really well for collecting email addresses. Even
talk to me about so just so we take a step back for the audience, they're going chatbots is exciting. Talk to me, what is the purpose? Like what would we use that for and what would be the benefit?
So let's say you're doing a post and you need a call to action of something.
Yes.
Like, whether it's, say, your book, for instance.
Yep.
So you're like, hey, buy my cookbook, link in bio.
Yes.
Then you go to a link tree, then there's 5 different options, bounce rates, massive.
Yes.
So instead you say, hey, you could even use a word like, DM me the word charity. Because then you're getting the word into their minds that this is a philanthropic venture. Or, you know, if you even had the name of the charity, whatever, give me that word.
Yes.
Then you send them a little personalized message, even though they know it's automated. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you could be out on a walk, you could be at the gym, whatever it is. Just let you know the link is going to be in this message. You can come back a bit later. If you could click on this, buy this, it'd be great for charity.
Got it. Yes.
So then you're in their inbox, and Instagram is more of a messaging platform than it is anything else at the moment, really. Yeah, you got your reels, you got your posts, whatever. But even if you ever notice when you're on autopilot, you just open your Insta and check your inbox.
Yes.
So like to have something in there, I think is quite cool. Then the other day I was playing around with something where I asked people to give me a prompt. I wait 10 seconds, then I DM them saying, sorry, 1 second. Then I wait 10 seconds and I go, hold on a second. Then 4 seconds later, I send them a video of me getting into a booth and closing the door, sending them a personalized video, then giving them a link to the website. Yes. Now that outperformed really well. So then I created like maybe a 35 message sequence. Then it waits a minute at the end and then says to them, by the way, this was an automation. But if you want to learn how to make these, you can learn it in my course, which was what I was promoting.
Genius.
So like it was like a full circle means of using something that made them feel like I was talking to them in real time. Yes. Then alluding to the fact it was an automation. Then I put that on a carousel post that I've seen have been doing really well. So then again, I'm trying different things. I'm like, okay, reels do well, but people engage better with carousel posts. Maybe when they're not using audio. Maybe when they're in a room without headphones. Maybe when they're exhausted from being taken through the story arcs of videos, where you've got hooks, setup, payoff, B story, outro, whatever. Sometimes seeing like a carousel post can take you back to old Instagram. So I took 10 still images, put them into Photoshop to make sure the dimensions were right. I then put them back into my phone and made a story arc of the captions on there so that as people swiped, they went through a little story, which didn't have the traditional setup of a reel. And then at the end, I said, if you DM me this word, and then it set them on the automation. I think we got maybe 2,500 people from one post that ended up going to the website. So now we can retarget them. Huge. You know, we can then, promote other offers. And so my brain never relaxes with that side of things. I'll be in the shower. I get a lot of ideas in the shower. My missus comes in. I'm like there with my hands out the shower, like typing ideas. I was like, I've just had a good idea. I need to run with it. But yeah, anything kind of outside that remit, when it comes to numbers, investments, percentages, shareholdings, I actually offload a lot of my thinking to my manager.
So do you see that as a risk? And like, let me pause for a second to share with you what's in my brain. You've heard those stories from like the big names before, you know, like the what's the most memorable one is like the Mike Tyson, you know, like it's like gets that point and then only once you're at that particular point you realize it's been leaking out or not seeing the risks early enough. Is that ever something that pops into your mind?
So far in our relationship, he actually cold emailed me in 2017, a bit like your cold DM on LinkedIn. So like, and he said, hey, I want to run your events for you. So he goes, if I fly you to Dubai, will you meet me? I was like, let's just FaceTime. I live in Bondi. Dubai's a step down, mate. So then I meet him in the UK once I kind of got kicked out of Oz for 6 months. And I go to meet him and he sends me to his office. And the one person I lived with went to uni with him. And I go, oh, this Luke guy, is he legit? My mate goes, I don't know, but he drives a Ferrari. Oh no, must be doing all right. So I go to his office, I call him, I go, I think I'm by your car. He goes, what color is it? I went, red. He goes, nah, mine's black. So I was like, who the fuck are you guys? Like, well, what's going on? But then when I open his Ferrari door, it was full of empty Starbucks cups, rubbish everywhere. And I get in, I'm like, mate, you need to clean your car. And he's like, oh, sorry. You know, like to him, it's just like a bit of fun. I remember, actually, I wonder if he minds me saying this, probably not, maybe. It just didn't fit the scenario. You're not much of a flashy guy. You're a high achiever, whatever. And he goes, oh, I don't have a good relationship with my dad. And he always wanted a Ferrari. So I got one just to piss him off. He goes, I don't talk to him, but I knew he'd find out. And I was like, fucking legend, right? This is the kind of spite stuff that I want to get into, you know, like
this is my dream.
And then he goes, I'm planning that we do like a 12-stage UK tour. And he goes, not many people are going to come, but if we do this for another year, then another year, you'll be able to sell out bigger venues. I go, okay, I'm in. He goes, cool, I've already booked the venues. I was like, oh, fuck. And then he came to all these events where we would go to like somewhere where there's 40 people in the crowd in a theater for 300. And he would, you know, bring up a young family, had his firstborn, would still come to Australia to support my tours. So even before the pandemic, through his actions, I could tell if he was a charlatan, he'd be the best organized to the point that I'd be like, fair play. If he ran away with copious amounts of my wealth, I'd be like, well done, bravo, sir. Because he would have done such a good way doing it. And like, if that was a scenario where it all got pulled out from underneath me, he still puts out so many fires for me and deals with so much of the stuff I don't want to deal with, because I only have a finite amount of energy on each day. I want it to be in creative places.
Yes.
And even with our relationship so far, if that was the case, it's only money. My life's good. I live good. I truly believe he has my best intentions at heart. And I think that when people such as Chris Williamson meet him, they actually start doing the same thing, because he's a very unique character. And yeah, it's, for me, a certain percentage of all the money I make is worth it. And I still see a good amount whenever I need stuff, or, you know, he's probably the first person. I had one night out in Vegas where I spent so much money.
You give me some numbers here.
No. But I messaged him straight away. He was like, don't worry, mate. Some people do this every weekend. He's like, you do it 3 nights a year. You deserve it. You've been doing well. I was like, oh, thank God. He talks me down.
Yeah.
I was looking at flights 24-hour early to go home. He's like, relax. So like, he honestly is like a big brother from like a mental health, a business perspective, everything like that. And yeah, just if it came to bite me, that's one thing. But so far, it just hasn't. And I hear those nightmare stories or whatever. But like, I feel like I truly believe that my best interests are also his best interests.
Yes.
So let's say we were to sell a chunk of Neutonic in a few years' time, like it from a character perspective, we very much look after like the people around us.
Yeah.
So without being big-headed, but like some of our friends before were just our friends. They now got book deals, or they now work for themselves, or they now have their own events or whatever. So just the way that he is and we are with the people around us, I just don't think that Machiavellian trait would be in him. I could be wrong. I'm not saying this with 100% certainty, but probably 99% certainty.
Love it.
And,
do you mind if I take us on a little story to make you feel better about the Vegas? So I won't name names on this one, but he will know exactly who he is. So I get a video sent from a friend, right? And he's not in Vegas, he's in Europe. And he sends me a video and he tells me the story later, and I'm sitting in my bed laughing, and my wife's like, what is going on? So he's in Europe and he's getting a little bit excited, and the barman goes like, I think I got a sucker on the line. And he goes, come with me. He brings him out and he presses on a fake door inside this restaurant, and it opens up, and then he presses on a bookcase and the bookshelf opens up, and then he takes him in the back. He goes, see that big chair out there? He goes, if you buy one of these bottles of champagne, we'll carry you on this chair through the restaurant and everybody will see. And so the video is of him getting carried out in this chair, and someone's holding a sign and these girls are waving flags, and it says the King of Aussie returns, and he's got himself a 26,000 euro bottle of champagne. And I'm watching this, I'm like, oh no, he's gonna do it. Oh no. And he starts shaking the bottle. He pops it, shakes it, gone.
Oh, so that does make me feel better.
So you should feel much better.
And do you know what? It wasn't even like a heinous amount of money. It worked out to probably be the same as our hotel room bill. Because for the days there, I was like, just had a kid, been like cooped up a bit. I was like, let's enjoy it. But things sometimes still hurt. And also, I'm sure you appreciate this, a couple of years ago, when I saw the bill, like 2 years ago, that would have been fine because it's my money.
Yeah.
But now I have a family.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that could have, been spent differently or whatever. But I'm over it. It took me about 5 days so I could laugh about it.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, so the relationship I have with him is good. He's a shareholder in everything I do. And like, sometimes say like, I don't know, we're looking to bring something out. The idea of having, I've actually done this in a lot of my business. The idea of having a larger shareholder in a business on my own, I think that almost makes it feel quite lonely. My business partner I have a fitness app with, we were 80-20. And then when we started building the business, I literally said to him, what percentage of this business do you want? Because he did the coding, the legal.
That's actually really interesting. Do you know what else is interesting? The Eat With Purpose cookbook. It's part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity. This podcast is a part of that goal. And what you can do is like, comment, share, and leave us a review. Let's get back to the guest.
He manages our coaches with their KPIs. He does all the data-driven stuff. I do all the creative stuff. And literally I said to him, whatever you ask for this business, I'll give it to you.
Wow.
So like, because to me, 40%, now 50%, I was feeling generous. But to have 100% less headaches for half the business stake is a good deal.
Yes.
And like the same way that having a management fee for less headaches, good deal. Same way that with this project, having another co-creator to have it, whatever, I've never been greedy with that. Like with a smaller shareholder percentage, if you want to make more money, you need to generate more sales. You don't need to try and recuperate more of a shareholding from other people or try and buy people out or do whatever Zuckerberg did to his mate when Facebook was blown up. Saying that, if our business was that size, let's see how friendly I am with everyone.
That's right. So let's pivot. One of the things I'm really interested in is your coaching, essentially PT businesses and coaching for things like the creatives that we were talking about. What are the common things that you're seeing that people are doing wrong, and like, you know, what can they shift that then really starts to move the needle in terms of the marketing funnel piece?
First 5 seconds, people are just not getting right. So people seem to think, well, I would love to get a mirror and put it in front of people and say, hey, this is where you do 80% of your scrolling. It's in bed at night. You're with your missus. Your toes are touching under the bed. Me and my missus do it. We call it doom scrolling. And but when you're there, you are not giving anyone a fucking chance because you want to be entertained right now. And until someone can fucking entertain that, and then you're like, oh, then something's good enough. You show your partner, right? You do not give people more than 2.5 seconds. So if you waffle, if you try and be too funny, if you try and be too creative, if you try and do anything that isn't the perfect recipe, it's like with food, right? If someone tries being too outlandish, you fucked it, mate. It's like, oh, hi, mate, I'm going to do scrambled eggs, but the toast is going to go on top of the egg. No, don't fucking ruin the recipe, mate. It's been working for generations like that. Stop trying to be an outlier. You're just fucking us off. So, cool, caffeine's kicking in. So like, the same goes with that. Like they don't think their hook's through, and they'll spend 2 hours editing a video, and I'm like, your first 5 seconds wasn't good enough. So that's probably one of the first things, to really strategize the first things you do. Even in a video where I react to something, I'll drop a sigh or I'll put something quite volatile, like, oh, this guy does my fucking head in.
I saw that the other day and I was like, I was just frothing.
I
was frothing. It was really well done.
Visual hooks, verbal hooks. Yeah. We have hooks showing a latter part of the story. So even in the podcast you've been on, they try and dramatize bits in the middle of the podcast and bring it to the beginning. So that is a visual hook of what is to come. Statement hooks, question hooks. So if you can't get the first 5 seconds right, you're fucked. Absolutely fucked. So there's that for sure. 2, I think that 3-4 years ago, shitty camera, fine. Now, no. Audio has to be good. Here, you've got some Shure microphones, not the Shure SM7Bs. Interesting choice. You've got the Rodecaster, cloud lifters built in. You're using Sony A7 III?
Yep.
Yeah. Filming in 4K, multiple camera shots. This is the level you have to be at. Because if you do a podcast on a fucking iPhone, even if the content's good, nah. Even, this could sound quite rude, fuck it. I now know why you have a podcast, because the podcasts you've been on aren't that strong. They waffle too much. They haven't strategized their thoughts. Their intros are poor. Like so much of the
ones I've been on.
Yeah, where you've been a guest. So I started watching a few of them before coming here today. You're not just going to turn up and fucking, you know, or to come in someone's house. What do you do? Like people overlook, they'll get the studio, they'll book the studio for the day, they'll do everything they need to, but they'll overlook the important part. I think you do need to have a good camera now. And like, there are coaches and PTs, they go, oh, but that microphone's $200 or that camera's $1,000. I'm like, listen, most businesses have to get an office, they need to get staff. They have a churn rate of staff. They need to pay recruiters. They're fucking just about to fire someone and then she's pregnant. You got maternity leave, right? So like you've got all of these variable risks, massive costs. And I'm saying, mate, can you not just flip in, get a tripod and maybe spend $2,000 on equipment? If it's that bad, go to your parents and say, look, I need 2K to start because social media is fucking free, mate. You get a nice camera and a microphone, you're halfway there. I built 7-figure businesses from sitting on my bedroom floor with a tripod. Everyone thought I had a white backdrop. I'm sat on my bedroom floor. I was going live from an iPhone when you still could go live from an iPhone to do well. So like, and the crazy thing is these coaches are saying to people, mate, you should invest in yourself. You know, like I'll charge $100 an hour. Let's do a 3-month commitment. I'm like, bro, you're asking people for like 3.5K commitment, but you won't spend it on yourself. They also can't grasp the fact that that initial $2,000 commitment, as far as equipment, cameras, whatever, they need to get one client to pay for that. Even the course at the moment that I sell for like, let's say $1,500 US, if it was any cheaper, I'd have too many people. I wouldn't know them on a first name basis. But also, I'm like, guys, you get 1 or 2 clients from everything I'm going to teach you. You pay for yourself. In the coaching and fitness world, people are oblivious to that. And like when you look at the real tangible, the amount of debt that most businesses have to get into just to get off the ground, I'm like, you guys are so lucky. You literally have a face-to-face job that you can start to work your way out of within 2 to 3 years, being pessimistic. Some outliers are going to be out the gym in 3 months. You get to operate a business as a sole trader where the only people you need to employ are going to reduce your administrative stress. Like most entrepreneurs are like, what? You're gonna send people workouts and they're going to pay you, retaining revenue, and you're just going to send them from a phase 1 to a phase 2 workout? They're like, wow, so if they could just snap out of that mindset. If
I can add an overlay, because something you've just touched on there from the investment standpoint is really important. And I think sometimes we can reframe the thinking of investment. So people look at an employee cost and they extrapolate it out as the total year cost. Or for example, the cameras, really good one. And they look at the cameras and you go, okay, that A7S3 is $4,500, the tripod, let's say you're all in for $5,500. The reality is you're not actually all in for $5,500 square, because let's say you did it and you did it for 1 year and it didn't work out. You can still sell it for $3,500. So it's not about the total cost. It's about the net difference between the total cost and what you sold it for. And if you better yet, go buy it secondhand on Gumtree, and a year later you'll only sell for $500 less. So the true cost, although yes, there's an upfront component, is only that missing link, as long as you don't drop it.
I even say to people as well, like, if you really don't believe me, get one from JB Hi-Fi. There's like a 28-day fucking return policy on it. Be that person. Be that person. It's okay. You're poor. It's fine.
I've been that person.
Yeah. And then other people, I've said, buy these DJI microphones. If they don't improve your business by the cost that they cost you, I will pay for them. I said to people before, I caught someone in my mentorship drinking instant coffee. I was like, here's $200. Go get a coffee from a cafe, because I'd like you sat in a cafe when you're doing this stuff. Like, another guy was wearing a Grenade t-shirt with the brand of I said, I think I gave him £400 to go to Lululemon. I gave him a shopping outfit. I was like, bro, you do not look the part. Plain black t-shirts, slim fit tracksuit bottoms. If I catch you promoting another fucking brand when they're not paying you, I'll fight you. So like,
and I know jiu-jitsu.
So like, people just need to kind of snap out of it a bit with that. And then probably third or fourth thing would just be not really understanding their avatar or the person they're talking to, which I know every single fucking business guru says. But like, if I land on your landing page or I go onto your Instagram and I don't know who you help, and it doesn't have to be that specific, because some people are like, oh, I help basketball athletes recover from knee injuries. I'm like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. Way too small. One guy was like, oh, I want to train CEOs in Brisbane. And I'm like, could you not go for like, I don't know, even if you would just say high performers, because there are bricklayers with huge amounts of capital that they could pay you fucking 2 years up front. So when you make it CEOs, you're making your niche way smaller than it needs to be. And I think people are brainwashed into thinking, the riches is in the niches, which in some areas, but when it comes to fitness, like we've got S&C coaches that want to train athletes. I'm like, the majority of your demographic have coaches already, because if they're good at sport, they're in a club. And if the club is good, they've got S&C coaches.
What's S&C stand for?
Strength conditioning.
Strength conditioning. Yeah.
So like, my missus, when I met her, she was playing AFL for the Giants and netball for the Giants. So like, all of her S&C was taken care of by the clubs. She'd go to the gym as an athlete, turn up, and they would do the sessions for you because you're a fucking athlete, right? So the fact that someone at a high level, like someone playing Roosters, is going to hire an S&C coach on the weekend, the Roosters S&C guy will be like, what are you doing? So like, people don't even appreciate how much they, and I said, look, if you're a really good strength and conditioning coach, you really know your shit, go to Gen Pop because you're overqualified. And some guys are like CrossFit coaches, and I'm like, cool, go to Gen Pop and make them feel like a CrossFitter. Get them to do an on the minute every minute. Get them to do as many reps as possible. They're going to feel like a fucking badass, because the other Gen Pop PTs are like, oh, it's 4x8 back squats. Like, I was like, be overqualified in a larger niche than trying to pick a pool of people that's so small. And then, sorry, I could go on all day. The other thing was just like being more creative. So like,
how do you be more creative?
So first thing that I think people need to do is, and I was massively against this till about a year ago, was emulating what's working for other creators. So funny story. Do you know Adam Sullivan, evidence-based training in Queensland.
Yes.
Cunnies.
Yes. Yeah, Cunnies. Yeah.
A few of his reels were a little bit too much like mine, so I blocked him. I unblocked him, and now we're good mates.
Yeah,
right?
nice.
And I think I got bitter or insecure about the fact that I thought he was ripping on. And the thing is, I came to realize he was doing very well out of it. So I was like, it was my own problem. It wasn't him that was the problem. It was me that was the problem. And I said this to him over about 15 margaritas. And I was like, that was a me problem. But I studied a YouTube course recently, and the guy in it was like, it's fine to have the same story repeated because we've had 3 Spider-Men in our generation, to the point it was such an elephant in the room they combined them. We've had 3 Batmen. And like, we don't care because the director puts his own spin on the same story.
Yes.
So then I was like, So they were like, if you want to see something that works, you can create your own version of it, but it won't be the same because it's your version of it. And even on YouTube, Mr. Beast, Ryan Trahan, all the biggest creators, if you find their biggest videos, they were done 3 years before by someone else. The thumbnails are even the same. So when I've got clients and their stuff stagnating, I'm like, go find me the 5 best performing reels on creatine, take the best things from all of them, copy it word for word if you need to, make it your own. But then that just gives people the motivation to realize that if they assemble the parts right, they can do well. And when that video is viral, I'm like, cool, we can dismantle the belief that your algorithm is broken. We can dismantle the belief that people don't like your content. We can dismantle the belief that you're a bad creator. So there's the emulation in one part, but then when there's a string of emulations, you become the last person to it. Like if I got a bowl of like crisps and went, this is how many calories you'd have to eat to get, I'm like, bro, fucking washed, rinse, stop that. So then people also need to be told to snap out of it. You're too late.
Yeah.
You're buying Bitcoin too late, bro. You know, this isn't your way out. So like and saying to people like, skin in the game, I think is really important recently. Like I didn't eat for 3 days to prove people wrong.
I saw that. That was
like,
fucking
but
good.
then I literally didn't eat for 3 days. I fucking hated it. But then I had a story. And so I'm trying to say to people, like, if you're trying to emulate something that's not working, challenges, make yourself suffer, do something, have skin in the game. Like you might have taped your mouth for 30 nights. No one cares. You put a bit of fucking tape on your mouth. It's not that impressive. But if you're like, I ate 1,000 calories for 2 weeks to prove, I'm like, whoa, what happened? So yeah, there's like a myriad of different kind of things and approaches that I think are important for creators. But a lot of the time they just kind of need a bit of a big brother figure to be like, nah, this is shit. This isn't good enough. But then when they do well, I praise them a lot for it. I'm like, this is exactly what it needs to be. And one of the most common things I put in the Discord is keep pumping. Like, they'll go like 3 weeks. Oh, I've been doing what you told me. I'm seeing a slight uptick in performance. I'm keep pumping. And then I'll see in the post your wins part in the Discord, had 1 post that popped off, got 3 clients, and then they're invigorated. But I feel like a lot of people kind of have a bit of a confidence problem with social media, but they're basing it off. I mean, most businesses, first few years of like P&L, profit and loss, fucking financial statements, never, as a white belt, I was shocking at jiu-jitsu for 2 years. Even a brown belt, I'm still shocking at some of the things. But like, if people only understood the level of shit house you have to be at things. My first PT session's awful, embarrassing.
You're eating your lunch, you're by the window.
Yeah. Or even just the stuff I put in them. I'm like, oh wow, like I was doing what on a TRX? So I said what to that client? So like if people could only have a better understanding of just like how shocking you're going to be in the onset, but then also how creative you need to be when you get to a level of competence. There are so many more killers in every space than I think we give credit to. So people think naively that they can just put out a subpar piece of content. Like really content are assets that we are putting out to the internet to get a return. Gary V, his most recent book, Day Trading Attention, made me feel very seen, where I've never been interested in stocks, shares, ETFs, like even like investing, you know, like I know the upside of it, but for me, being a dopamine junkie, I want something that I can get back today. And he says that creators in the modern world are day traders, but they trade with attention. So we are moving things, trends, this is working, chatbots, this hook, whatever it is. And then we get the fruition out of if we get the attention, we get the traffic. And if we get the traffic, we get the sales, email list, whatever it is. And I came to realize that like, that's really what I enjoy. I enjoy this day trading thing. The idea of leave it alone for 3 years. Fuck that. I want to be there every day, like pounding this business, like waiting for one video to kick off and like, oh fuck, we made what today?
I want to be buying Bitcoin, Dogecoin.
Yeah.
All the coins. How do you see it these days, even though you've been in the game for 10 plus years, like we've been talking about, do you see like a one piece that will bang and an immediate uptick in sales? Or is it kind of leveled out to the point now it's more about the consistency?
It's bad because I don't really look, right? So for me, my metrics on social media is like traffic.
Yep.
And then another thing that I really like at the moment, which I'm probably giving away a few of my secrets, when it comes to email marketing, I was writing my course and I said something that worked and I went, I'm not doing that thing. So I created a 4.5 month email autoresponder. So I wrote 4.5 months worth of emails for Gen Pop every day, turn up.
What's Gen Pop? Sorry,
general population.
Got it. Okay.
Cool. So like, you have your athletes, you have your Gen Pop,
Yes, got
you
it.
have your older demographics. But like, if we go to Fitness First, 80% of them are probably 20 to 38, carrying 5 to 10 kg of extra fat, probably drink a little bit too much. Probably stick to the machines, but if they had a good structure, they could get 50% better returns or whatever. They're like, fortunately and unfortunately for Gen Pop, the prescription we give to those cohorts is very similar. So slight restriction in calories, slight bump in protein, 3 to 5 weight sessions a week would double their progress. So where was I before that? What were we talking about on Gen Pop then?
Oh no. Oh no, what have we done? The Neutonic's kicking in.
So I get so carried away. We'll come back to it in a second.
Yeah, we'll come back. We're talking about the consistency and the change in sales, and you're talking about the different metrics
Yeah.
that you focus on.
So yeah, I still can't remember where I was going with that sentence.
That's okay. I have a question to pivot us.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
What's changed since you become a dad?
Oh, the traveling was an interesting one, right? Where I was like, oh, it'd be quite nice to get away. Be nice. Fly to Vegas, sleep business class, no babies crying. You can't enjoy yourself because you're away. You're checking in with them all the time. Are you okay? Is everything going all right? You get sent a picture of a shitty diaper. You feel guilty.
Put that shitty diaper in the trailer.
The guilt about spending money, as well. Also, the other day I was like, I need to adjust my will in case I die. There's kind of all of that. But one thing that was kind of crazy was I was adopted. So I've never seen a blood relative before. So my son is my first blood relative and he looks just like me. So we have the same ears, we have the same nose. So that was a pretty cool experience for me. But one thing as well is I get on really well with my parents. Everyone's like, oh, biological. I'm like, your parents who bring you up. So I get on with them really well. But every stage I'm going through with my son, I'm kind of seeing the stages that they went through with me. But I'm kind of like, with me, when he's crying or whatever, I'm like, it's cool, he's mine.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, my parents would have been like that with a baby that wasn't theirs. And they still did everything that they needed to. So I'm thinking about, when it's your child, you don't need to worry too much about patience or empathy or whatever, because it's another version of you. But for the two heroes here was one, my mum that gave me up because she knew she couldn't give me a good quality of life. It was an island. It was in 89. Couldn't bring a baby up out of wedlock. Would have shamed the whole family. So then for her to come over to the UK and not have me aborted was amazing. But then for my parents who were struggling to conceive, for them to take someone else's baby and bring it up. So every stage we go through, I'm like, fuck, they did this for me. And that I think is more selfless than being a parent. So it's given me a lot of respect for my parents to kind of the journey that they went through. So I'm going home to see them at the weekend. And I think I will see them in a different light after having children. That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. I think I'll say to them, I think for the first time in my life, I might say thanks. I'm like, fucking hell, this shit's hard. It's like Chinese water torture at times. That's what I think would be the main thing that's changed.
That's incredible. And it actually takes me back because I remember those moments of going fuck, I was a little asshole. You know what I mean? You're like, oh wow, you put up with this, and obviously as your son gets older, son gets older, then more those little like attitudes and stuff come out. You're like, oh my gosh, like you put up with this is incredible. And you know, one of the things I get asked a lot from people who like in the business world is like, do I have the kid now? Do I do the family, or do I push that back and just focus? Like now going through that, what would your response to that kind of person be?
I don't think you're ever ready. We didn't plan it, but then when it happened, I was like, oh, it's pretty good timing. I'm 35 now. How old are you?
31.
Okay. Fuck. Okay. It's a nice house for 31 now. So like, 35, I was like, I'm not getting any younger. Actually, and another thing is I always saw my parents as kind of old for parents, and they had me at 36. Yeah. So I was like, fuck. Like I said, borderline alcoholics. No, I'm joking. So, it seemed like a perfect time. I think 2 years earlier, I wouldn't have even had a visa. So I was like, what would I be doing with that? So for me, for time-wise, it was pretty good. Also, it's been quite nice to slow down a bit. Having a kid's allowed me to sit and watch the Grand Tour on Amazon for 4 hours and not give a fuck about anything that's going on. Whereas I was probably a bit too tightly bound before. Last year was a weird one. Like I was just like stressed for no reason. That's why I got the ADHD diagnosis. I was like, something's kind of like not right. And this year with the kid and everything else, everything's like chilled. It's actually like relaxed me a bit. And like, there is some looming stress. I tell you what, right, really, really fucked me was, I've always not really wanted to buy a house. I've always seen it as like something kind of fucking stupid to do. Like I always joke around, like you don't have boilers really in Australia, but I was like, if the boiler goes, it's not my problem. When I was renting, I was flushing wet wipes all the time. I was like, it's not my problem. And then when I bought a house, like I was trying to, basically I have a salary that is sensible and I live off that. So then when it came to buying a house, I was like, cool, I'm gonna have to take a lot of money out. Then the tax bill from that money made me borderline depressed for 2 months. Then the fucking stamp duty on the house. I was like, I'd have to work for a year to pay that. But then actually after tax, that's 2 years. 2 years I would have worked in the gym just to give money to the government of the money I've already paid tax on. Yeah. So like moving into the house, I was like, this is cooked, right? Then I got a mortgage because trying to pay it off in full would just be the worst use of capital ever. Like if I sold a business and I had it, it's cool, but I didn't. So I'm there looking at this mortgage and I'm like, I'm getting depressed about it. Everyone's like, smart use of money. I was like, there is $1 million of debt in my bank account. Before we bought this house, I was in a comfortable position. I could have gone offline for 3 years and said, fuck you to everyone. Now I've got this looming debt, interest. I'm like, everything's like, I became grumpy, right? Even now taking out a dividend, I'm like, it's pissing me off. I'm thinking about living in Monaco for a year or something. Like, babe, can we just go to Dubai for a year or whatever it is? So like, I became super stressed when I bought a house because suddenly my financial position had debt in it. I've never had debt in my life. And so then I became super work focused, grinding away, like became a bit of like an evil capitalist. I was like, I must pay down the mortgage. But then I also realized that every single big thing in my life that I accomplished, the next day I was like, oh. So I already know that if I pay off the mortgage, I'll feel nothing. And this was a question, I kind of heard you answer it a little bit, but like, it's so difficult. I'm in business, I'm a few steps behind you. But I think it was Mark Boris who said like, when he made that massive sale of his business, I can't remember how much it was, he just had a pizza and a beer and went to bed. Yeah. And he was like, oh, is that it? And it's so difficult from my side of it to be able to think that, but I know that's exactly what it would be.
It's exactly what it is.
And like money in business can sometimes create such weird stress that you can't really comprehend. And it seems like such a privileged thing. I think Chris Williamson had a fantastic guest on a few weeks ago. It's a billionaire who's on antidepressants. And it was the best conversation ever. Good. And he calls it rich people problems. And I was like, do you know what? I'm not rich, by the way. Still, please buy my drink. I haven't sold anything yet. Still got a mortgage. I'm a man of the people, just like you. So yeah, like I always try and ground myself now, especially now going, James, wherever you're at, you're going to have problems. And if money is such a big problem for so many people, they can't imagine a world that you have problems without money. But you're literally, if you look at, say, this table in front of us, I always think mental health is a pillar.
It's a 200 grand table.
Is that it? So like, yeah, mental health is like a pillar. You've got physical health, mental health, stress, relationships, finances, whatever. When you address the finances, you're only taking one leg out or putting one leg in, speaking. But like, there's still so many other things that can absolutely fry you. Like, and I just keep reminding myself of that. And interestingly, I said to my business partner the other day, so I'm gonna make a conscious effort to be more happy, because when I had nothing, I had to make myself happy. When I was backpacking, I used to live in Manly actually, on West Esplanade. I used to have to get the ferry into Fitness First. I'll go out, get pissed at the weekend. I remember one night in Bondi, I had to go home because I couldn't afford the next round. My mates were giving me shit. I was like, I told you when we came out, I have no money. So I was like, I've got my money for the ferry back and the bus to the Circular Quay. So then it came around to my round and I was like, I've got to go. They're like, you can't go, it's your round. I was like, lads, I told you all day. But then when I was literally so skint, my dad actually had to lend me $300 to buy a sofa in Bondi. I made myself happy all the time. But one thing I caught myself doing just before having the baby, or actually even a little bit recently, is you, instead of making yourself happy, you focus on business tasks. So you say, if I get these done and get these to perform well, it'll make me happy. And then they do perform well, but they don't make you happy. So then you just keep moving the goalposts of, another 100K or another 1,000 followers or whatever. And like, since having Kian, I was like, oh, do you know what? Fuck this, I'm going for a swim. Do you know what? Fuck this, I'm having a nap or whatever. And I think that this year, the really hard thing for me was to realize that it's a bit like remaining fit. You actually have to make yourself happy a lot. And like I said, me and my business partner went and got absolutely smashed in the city, smoked cigars on lunch break. We're just like, we're caring less. And I think that having a son has enabled me to care less about all that serious life stuff and care more about him, his day-to-day life, welfare, whatever. Do you ever worry that being in a financial strong position might hinder the, what would you say, the attitude? Or is it your son?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is so there's two parts. I want to quickly add to what you've just said. I think there's a certain freedom when you get to the realization that the next thing won't bring the happiness. You know, that's the old like, oh, I'd rather be crying in a Ferrari than a fucking Toyota Corolla, whatever bullshit. I think once you have that freedom in your mind and you go, I know, like you've had a couple of goalposts and you've moved them and you go, okay, never did that change anything. I think there's a certain freedom. You go, okay, I now know that isn't going to be the thing I'm chasing. So like for me, I'm starting to froth about my next business, right? The monetary piece is going to be a scorecard, but I know that's like, you know, double it, like the baseline dopamine won't change at all. So I think it's an important place to get to, because you never get there. I think it's a real like the sad reality, extrapolate out, you're 60 years old and you're like, oh fuck. Because I reckon when you get to the billion status and then you're unhappy, I reckon it's almost the most unhappy, because it's like you're like, this should be everything that creates happiness.
I found this where I was flying business the other day, and I was like, the first time I flew business, I remember I had like 6 glasses of wine. I nearly cried. I was like, this is amazing. And I remember sat in business, I was like, my first emotion was I don't belong here. I felt like I've won it. And then now it's just normal. And I was beating myself up. I was like, you fucking prick. If you could go back to 27, you would have done anything for this, and now you're not. And then the first thing that got us speaking was getting the RS6.
Yeah.
And that I've never got bored of. I've never stopped loving it. And actually I was like, I've been trying to say this to my friends. I'm like, I thought so many things would make me happy. The cars made me happy. But then I'm like, I'm already dreading the fact that one day I'm going to walk into a delership and I'm going to say I'm bored of the RS6, which is what you've just gone through, right? And again,
I was not bored of it. I love it to bits. Definitely not.
Where is it?
Not here.
But again, with Adam Sullivan in Queensland, we're in his Urus and we're driving it and he's telling me about the next Lambo he's getting. And I was like, there was a part of me, and I said this to him, I was like, I was kind of sad. Like, you're only 34, I think. I was like, you can't be bored of a Urus at 34. I was like, this is not allowed. And even there was a big house near me that was for sale and I couldn't afford it. And I got a little bit sad for a second. I was like, oh, I need to make more money so I can buy it. And I was like, I would move into that house and I would just look at bigger ones. And I had to really snap myself out of that. Like, what do they call it? Keeping up with the Joneses or whatever. I was like, stop that. I love where I live. I love my house. I love the proximity to the beach. And exactly like what you said there, it's a really weird thing where you are kind of beating yourself up, because if you're doing really well off and you're like, oh, this used to make me happy and it doesn't anymore, the higher you get, the more you can beat yourself up about it. You're like, because especially if you're self-made, where you've come from the bottom, you know The hedonic treadmill is kicking your ass. Never enough, never enough, never enough. What would you say has been your favorite purchase since the sale of the company? As far as pleasure, not as far as smart investment.
Oh yeah. No, that wouldn't be the first thing. I think there'd be two things. One would be this house. Like so for your knowledge, Holly and my wife, we've been together since we were 15 or 16. So she's seen from I drove a Toyota Echo to the Toyota Yaris to the Volkswagen Golf, and then it's like from that to the RS6. We lived in an apartment where we rented, and so we had the really exciting like contradiction between like renting a 2-bedroom apartment to moving here. It would be that, and then a car. Like I really love. Like I'm not on that treadmill of next. The reason you brought up that I've changed the car is because that was actually the car I wanted, but I wanted to create myself essentially if you have it all immediately, you will like. What else can you look forward to? And so to add to your piece there is I think it's perspective. One of the things we did when on our first holiday, never flown business. I said to Holly, let's fly first class once. Like we don't have to pay for Oscar. We'll fly once and it'll be an experience. And we did that. And this year we flew economy. And it's like,
where did you go?
Europe.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. With Oscar, we're sitting in the seat and like, it's like, fuck, I don't need a hero award for that. People like, you get to go to Europe, right? Like, and why? And this will start to answer your other question. I don't want to raise a son that has never had anything but the best, because like I'm bound to cook him, and there's certain things that I cannot avoid. He gets to look at the ocean each morning. That is a total privilege. I'm not going to go and live in an apartment just for the sake of that. But I don't want him to be like, oh, Daddy, where's my reclining air bed? Like that's like I've heard of people like I'm lucky all my friends were kind of in a very similar circumstance. But I'd heard of one person that kind of brought into our group, and we were flying to, I think it was like Brisbane or something. And they said, oh, this is the first time I've flown economy. And they're like 24 years old. And I was like, I never want to have that. And the beauty about doing the economy and then next time you do, you get the perspective, because if you're continually going up and up and up, there isn't a perspective. Like, and I think that's one of my favorite things about traveling. You leave Australia, you go, oh, this is amazing. And you go, man, I love Australia. Like it's so good. And so the question you had about like my son, that's one of the things that plagues my mind, because like I think what myself and my two brothers are really lucky for is my dad went bankrupt in Australia. He moved to New Zealand with my mum and us, and we saw them, picking apples, sharpening knives, and then finally get to Australia where they, started to kind of get out of that hole. And so we knew what that looks like. So then every time you have something that's, now we're living in a rental house, because we at one stage we lived in a caravan. Those are like moments, and then like that you ingrained like hard work and like appreciation. I'm like, man, like if you just giving out this and giving out that, you're like bound to like set your child up not for success. Because I think one of the things, sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, James, I'm getting excited, but it's like one of the things that worries me is like if I put myself in those shoes, just poke myself in the eye, if I put myself in those shoes and I go, even if let's say Oscar gets into business, he loves it, the challenge I think you'll always have is coming from something that's a successful parent is, oh, but you didn't make it, did you, Oscar? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it doesn't matter how hard you work, like that will be your battle. And I'm like, oh, like I'm like, how do I avoid that? Because I know that will be really tough. Because think about it, like if you work really, really hard, like the best thing you can do is you get the privileges of life, but then you put in effort and you do your own next rung, and then people are like, yeah, come on, mate. Like, come on, your dad drives a Lambo, come on, mate. So like it's something I've even been asking on the podcast all the time, because I'm like, one, hopefully the audience finds interesting, but more importantly, I'm like, I ask people who've sold their company for $1 billion, how do you battle against that? Because I want to know like what are the things I can do day to day, because it's in my mind. Is that something that's passed your
my
mind?
Manager and I were joking about it, where he was saying that it'll be cheaper to fly a minder in economy. And then I was like, oh, it's kind of savage, but it's kind of good. You could be like, and then, oh, Daddy, why am I not sat with you? Because you haven't paid for it, son. Yeah. You got economy for free. I'll say this to my dog. When my dog's giving me shit, I'm like, free rent, free food. You can live a good life. I'll take you to the beach. You don't wash me, I'll wash you. I'm like moaning at it. I say to the baby as well, stop crying. You got 20 years free rent. Leave it out. But I tell you what, one thing, right? This isn't a paid promotion, right? It's not a paid promotion. One thing that changed my life. Have you heard of 8 Sleep?
Yes.
Have you got one?
I've got one.
I can't believe there are entrepreneurs out there that sleep on a mattress that isn't cooled, right? So now I like every time you get 3 beers in me, I start selling stuff. But that has changed my life. And when we're in Vegas, we stayed in like the nicest hotel in Vegas. And I was like, this bed is hot. I was like, I'm sweating. I was like, yeah, I've got Vegas skyline or whatever. But I was like, so to people watching, I bought a temperature controlled mattress cover. Changed. It's like literally,
bro.
I'm going home for a month. I'm dreading it. I'm like, what? Not going to change the temperature on my mattress for me as I'm asleep. Like, and now I'm thinking to myself, you know, people buy a nice car. I'm like, you're only in it an hour a day. You're in that mattress for a lot longer. And actually, funnily enough, first ever time I flew first class, I was like 28, came back to Bondi to my $350 a week apartment. And the bed that was in front of me, I bought for $160 with the mattress.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, James, that was a terrible use of money. You could have gone business and you could have kitted yourself out with the nicest bed. You could have gone to Dares, got like Egyptian high thread sheets or whatever. I was like, no, you literally spent all the money you had on going first class. You're an idiot. But yeah, like for me, the car and the bed cover, I've hit peak humanity.
Yeah.
You know, people didn't have hot showers till a few hundred years ago. I was like, so every time I'm like having a stressful day, I'm like, there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah. I won't be sweating tonight. You know what's funny? That's one of the products that I have, again, no affiliation, but has sold because, you know, I was like a little bit embarrassed. What is like $3,000? And, you know, my friends are like, fucking hell. And I'm like, hey.
Get in.
Like, you know, for the next 5 years, let's say it works 5 years. I was like, it's less than the coffee. It's less than the coffee if you think about it from everyday perspective. Like I went from an hour and 10 restorative sleep. There's probably a problem there somewhere. To 2 hours. My awake time from 2 hours to an hour when I started using the 8 sleep. I'm like, that's worth every penny.
They're going to clip this. Everyone's going to clip it. I just got the new one.
Yeah. Oh.
The
Snore 3000 there. Which they're the one that
yes,
the snoring.
but like, so now, like, we're in bed. I'll make a bottle for Kian. We're there. I tap the mattress 4 times and it sits us up. So then also I can change the temperature by tapping the mattress. Like it's that one's like 7,000 Aussie dollars, which is insane. But like the same have you got a coffee machine?
Yes. Yeah.
So you know you're making a coffee. You're like, well, the thing is, mate, if you buy this Breville Barista Pro, after 2.5 months, you made your money back. You're suddenly like showing off to your mates. Oh, you spend $5 a coffee every day, 2 coffees. Did you know? Yeah, if you just bought a machine. So like, I find like the financial advisor side of me only comes out when I'm trying to justify my own needs, justify my own purchases. Like someone's like, oh, with the car, I'm like, well, technically with the logbook, you know, the business purposes. But like, it's crazy that they're the things that I find like the kind of like enjoyable things. Friends come out, try this out, give this a go. But the harsh thing for you is, so I would say Audi RS6, Lambo Urus. I still have a lot of love for the Audi RS Q8, which is just like a half price Urus, right? But there aren't really many cars above that still have practicality and enjoyment. Aston Martin DBX, did you consider one of them?
No. I mean, the Urus is the dream car. I've been looking at it for like 6 years. Poster on the wall vibes. It was like it's like been on the top of the list.
They sound so much better than the others.
They sound ridiculous, and I'm in love. But also now is the first time everybody's going to hear that I have that because I haven't put it on social media. So thanks, James.
Sorry. Congratulations.
Thanks, James.
When I pulled up to your house, because you got a beautiful looking house and the sky is blue, it's an amazing day. I messaged my manager. I took a picture and went goals. Because when I met him, he was like, the day we go to Lamborghini, we're going to buy 3. Like, you know, you have one, I have one, and my best mate's getting one, or whatever it is. But yeah, actually, funnily enough, he won't mind me saying this. My manager nearly bought one cash, and he had this massive festival because he's into music events. He just did Fisher, Dizzy Rascals tour. So that's his background, is doing music events.
Yeah, right.
So when he got into the fitness industry, he was like, man, you guys are nice. Like, it's very much like a backstabbing, throat cutting industry. And 2 kids ended up overdosed at this festival. He had to shut the second day. Financially, it like really screwed him up because he had to pay the majority of the artists and refund most of the tickets. And he said like that reality check for him was like one of the best things in his life because it humbled him a lot, where a few weeks before he was considering getting a Urus. And then after that, he was like, oh, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So I think hopefully that will be a monumental day where we get to do that. But yeah, it's such one of those, like, it's weird because in entrepreneurialism, business growth, whatever, people I think sometimes can really be naive to the fact that numbers make you numb after a while. Yeah, it looks cool. It's in a bank account. It's moving around, whatever. But when you sit in it, like as a boy, like as growing up as a lad, like Need for Speed 2 Underground, Fast and the Furious, like all of these things still excite me in like such a way. And then it actually feels real. You're driving, you're like, oh wow. But then rich people problems, curb and alloy. It's a different story in the Lamborghini. You know, you'd be wishing you had your Golf still.
Yeah, I bet I would. I have one last question for you, James. Moment to reflect, like the journey that's been, and of course there's many things that's to come. What are you most proud of?
Do you know what? I've been asked this a few times, and I think it's, I think it was like March 15th, 2017. I was in Australia Square. I had pretty much just given up on the gym floor. I was like prospecting for like 2-3 hours. No one was biting for PT. So I went into Australia Square. I think I got like a tray of sushi. I'm sat there, I had my laptop out, and my 2 housemates were in a group chat, were like, oh, how's work? And I remember replying, just going, not good. And that was it. And I looked at it and like sending that message, I was like, this is fucked. I was like, looking at that message, I was like, not good. I was like, you know, if you message your mate going, oh, how are things? He goes, not good. You're like, oh shit. Right? Yeah. It only really made sense to me seeing that message that I needed to do something, because if I didn't, I'd be going home. And Australia, to me, being British, we have that for 2 weeks a year, and we have to fly to Tenerife or Spain to do it. And then it's rammed and it's full of the worst people in the world, British people on holiday. And like, you guys are paranoid about sunburn. We embrace it because we only get it for 2 weeks a year. You know, sunburn in the UK is, oh, you had a good trip. Sunburn in Australia is, you're a fucking idiot, right? So then when I came here, I've been to a lot of places in the world. Never once have I felt like I could live there. When I got to Australia, I was like, oh, my parents are going to be fuming. I traveled the whole East Coast and I loved it. And I remember when I turned up to Sydney, I put a story on my Instagram going, this place better be good. It's got a lot to live up to. And like, I think maybe 2 days later, my Facebook caption story thing was, I get it. That was it. James Smith checked in at Bondi Beach. I get it.
Yeah.
And so for me, when business wasn't going good, it wasn't just that it wouldn't go good. It was that if it doesn't get better, I'm going home. So on Pitt Street, there's an Officeworks. I went in there. I got a tripod, some board markers, and a whiteboard that we were renting a flat, stuck on the wall static. I didn't have my laptop was like really old, 2011 MacBook Pro. If I even opened iMovie, it would start overheating. So I was like, I can't edit. I don't have a camera. I've only got my iPhone. And so I'd have to go live. So 3 p.m. in winter in Australia, which it would have been March, maybe fact check me on this, could be 4 p.m., is like 6 a.m. in the UK. So I would go home from Fitness First. I'd walk from Bondi train station to my flat. I'd have 2 hours till my housemates came home. And every day I had an opportunity to go live. And in that video, I had to have, I didn't even know it at the time, hook, setup, topic, payoff, outro. Like I was just winging it at the time. So I would listen to a podcast about something evidence-based, where it was caffeine, training principles, whatever it was. And I performatively had a 5 or 10 minute slot every single day that was me talking to, almost like talking to my future. I had to grow my brand and my business or I was going home. So there was a level of desperation to it. And then I did that and I didn't miss a live for like maybe 2 years.
Wow.
And like, it got to the point where I got to 50,000 followers. The business was booming. And I remember when I bought a camera, I was like, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? And then it's only looking back where when I look at those videos, I cringe quite a lot. But the proudest moment is of who I was back then, because I think I'm a lot softer. I think I'm a lot, probably like weirdly less ambitious. I think I'm a lot more like nonchalant. Although I'm a bit more knowledgeable, the hustle that kid had in 2017, like even if I look at all the worst videos, or even the very first video I did on social media was about popcorn, right? Imagine this. I went to a seminar just for coaches and pretty much we got called out in 2015 that if we didn't start making video content, we'd get left behind. And I remember looking around at the room and it was on a Saturday. I was like, no one else is going to go home and make a video on the Sunday, but I will. So I get home, I'll wait for my housemate to go out. It's in the UK and I had nothing to talk about. So I raid the fridge. I'm going through the cupboards. I found a bag of popcorn and I made a video on popcorn, right? As to why it was a low calorie, beneficial snack, whatever it was, right? It was on my 2011 MacBook Pro that got overheated. You can actually hear the flywheeling like as I'm filming it. I filmed it on the front camera and I uploaded it. And in one of my last live events, we did like a massive talk on confidence. I talk about through the whole event how I'd never let anyone see that video. Then I play it at the end. And I'm like, weirdly, the video that I'm most embarrassed about could potentially be the thing I'm most proud of. Because if I didn't make that terrible video, I wouldn't have made the ones that come after it. And similarly, if I hadn't have got my little whiteboard markers and gone every single day and gone live and spoken about a topic to the internet, nothing that I have now would have been there. So like the proudest thing would be looking back at the person I cringe over now. But like, it's insane that if I just was probably 10% more scared, I would probably still be in the gym in the UK, living very close to my mum and dad, whatever it is. So like, if people can appreciate that what they're about to do will suck, but the version of them 5-10 years ahead will look back on it and it'll be their proudest moment, even though it sucked.
Boom. James, that was epic. Thank
Thanks
you, my
for having
friend.
me. Cheers.